people, and welcome back to 5B again for my second episode this rotation. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for all the support last week. You guys really enjoyed our sort of tram peninsula here. And yeah, just really cool, apart from the cruise liner mitosis that's currently going on, as always. But wonderful, thank you for all of the support. I'm glad you enjoyed our little Partland Peninsula. Kind of as respecting the Sightlines build to Few Candy's Colossals build up in the hills. So quite nice and super busy as well. Yes, it's fun. However, this time we are leaving the capital, possibly for the final time. We're not sure if a fourth rotation is happening yet. So that could be our final contribution. But this week, we're heading over the hills and far away, over to the land of Egg, where we arrive back at Egg's rural town. I've missed this place. I absolutely love this build. This is like, I think it's these repeated townhouses. It's a vibe I'm very much on board with. Come down here onto our little waterfront with the breakwater rocks in the park. It's a very happy build. It's nice. I'm happy with it. And we've got some things to do today, so I would like to introduce a little bit of rural forestry. So we're going to create not a level 5 forestry area, not like a mass production facility if you like. More of just a tasteful usage of some of the space out here. Some hills, we'll have a look at some orientation with some of the growing assets against a rail line. And we can probably bring in a cargo line here as well, I imagine, because Zardas has one further down. And Zardas finally found our rock gardens that we've been leaving him. And in response, he actually sent us a fishing line. There's a fishing line that comes out from Zardas' town now, all the way into ours where he's stealing our fish. So we're going to have to go get someone else this week. I'm thinking that we're going to target Yumble, because during the off-season when I've been away from the series, Yumble has given us some sewage on our side of the river. So I think a necessary response is in order to that today. We will get Yumble back for that. But otherwise, let's talk about some fun little rural forestry designs that we can piece together in Cities Skylines. Okay, so I'd like to get this build started today just by extending our industrial road a little bit further into the other side of the rails. So let's just bring it out. Go for there for right now. So like I said, it's not going to be like a major production facility, this forestry area. I'm thinking we're just going to sort of play with some different orientations and angles today. So let's paint out our district as to exactly how big we want this build to be. I'm thinking it's going to occupy quite a lot of the land around here. And then a little bit up into the hills. Okay, and then maybe we can have a little bit of processing or something over here. Again, you know, it's not going to have like a pulp mill. It's not like a enormous forestry production area. I don't want anything to that scale. Okay, but that's not going to be too bad. So we've got some things, I think Imperial Jedi, was it? I think it was Jedi. Where is it? Yes, there's already a level 3 forest industry over here that Jedi's built. So we've already got access to a lot of the assets, which is helpful. So let's come out with some dirt roads for the time being. We may upgrade them into kind of more permanent sort of structured roads and fixtures. If we decide the build needs it, but for right now we really just want something that's going to hold our assets. So we always like to respect our sort of main networks in cities, right? So we've got a train line here, so why don't we see if we can run a little road parallel to it here. It's going to give us a really nice view from this part of the forestry build as well, just by having the resource extractors up this way. There is a power line here, which isn't actually currently carrying a connection. That's because we're playing with the new 81 tiles now, isn't it? So the power lines aren't actually necessary anymore. So we can actually remove them. I did kind of like them actually as the aesthetic. We might reintroduce them. I do like using power lines as decoration when we can. So I think we're going to go with some sapling fields, and I think I'm going to start with the small tree sapling field. And why don't we see if we can place this in a couple of orientations along this way. Let's go for 3 of them, I think, could be welcome. Perhaps 4. Yeah. Okay, it's not too bad for right now, I don't think, is it? Let's come ahead and sort of have a look at the pattern again. Move everyone up a little bit. Then why don't we go for a 1 tile gap between each of the greenhouses. And I think we will keep them all as greenhouse appearance, almost like they're kind of nurturing younger saplings down here before they're moved up maybe into a larger sort of plantation area where they're allowed to grow to maturity before being harvested, etc. But I think that a little bit of nature reserve fence with decoration actually might work quite nicely as a little bit of kind of border and boundary between these greenhouses. So we'll run with the same palette. Let's bring them up. We also want to be snapping to angle here as well. We want to come off as we come into the grid. And that should do us. And then as we come up this one now, we should just come behind. And then we can wrap that path pattern around the rest of the greenhouses, which should look quite nice. And then perhaps actually what we could do here is, rather than extending the path pattern out, why don't we do the dirt road instead? We'll just do a tiny little kink in the road here. Let's go for a little 2 curve. And 2 curve again. Then road guideline with a curve tool probably should be happy here. Cool. And then what we can do with this space here is now just allow it to kind of decorate the area. If we come into our ploppable options and then come into specific forest industry stuff, we can perhaps generate a little sort of courtyard or processing area for the things over here. We will actually need trees around here though. So we'll have to remember to bear that in mind. Let's go for this one here. So let's go ahead and get some tree patterns around them. I guess we'll stick with some of the pampas trees whilst we're in the theme. Always a fan of these gums. Very much looking forward to getting stuck into my own kind of modded tropical city at the end of Ilos for those that are keen followers of the channel. Okay, so I think a little repeated pattern of trees here. And then we can possibly finagle a little bit of work over this side. Okay, just so they're sort of together. And then we want to give them a happy little helping of surface painter around here. Then again, lots of overgrowth and bushes will be appropriate here for blending that all together. Perhaps a little bit of fencing as well. I think no, just makes a difference, doesn't it? A couple of little appropriate themed buildings on the edge of a complex like this. Some trees here too. It's going to help settle our building a little bit more, especially this side as well. Just a cute little rural forestry processing centre. I can also see that surface painter being introduced against the rail and the road pretty much for the duration. Quite a lot of muddy vibes here today, is very much on theme. Get some rocks and overgrowth through there as well in a second. But either way, for our area, that is going to give us some workers. Even though we have very little demand in Pampa at the minute, it just so happens that there's not that much commercial or residential. The zero industry, I'm aware of that, but it will still function. It'll get workers, it'll produce money for us. Wonderful, cool. So this is working. That's going to give us a little bit of processing here. So we can now have a look at perhaps bringing in another dirt road to give this processing a little bit of functionality. We will break the pathway, but we'll bring it back in. So we'll probably end up just replacing it with dirt road, I imagine. Yeah, let's just do that. There we go. And then I'd like, again, another building here to sit as, you know, a point of administration or processing for the small sapling fields. So we could do a sawmill. I think that might be appropriate. So I'm thinking just a cute sawmill at the head of the sapling fields here is going to be appropriate. Perhaps it's where materials are stored. Obviously, you wouldn't really saw a sapling, but, you know, you could pretend that there's processes and materials that are being stored here for future use, etc. Cool. And I think that just sits in really nice, doesn't it? It's quite quaint, quite small and tasteful, I think. I'm also going to bring in another dirt road here to loop around the back, just so they've got connectivity into the sawmill from here as well. And then we'll just use move it to correct that junction so the roads aren't overlapping. That should help it out a little bit. Cool, but otherwise, it's not sitting too badly. I think I would like to actually remove a little bit of this generic industry here. I'm not a massive lover of it, especially when it's been zoned. It looks very ugly and it's just not my thing. Perhaps we can... I do like maybe the larger factory though. I think the larger factory's okay. Maybe this blue one's a bit obnoxious, isn't it? Let's see if we can get a smaller asset in there. Let's reduce its size down a little bit and see what comes in. Just a little bit too overbearing, I think. Wonderful, but let's come back in with a little bit of service painter work here as well. We'll just go ahead and paint all this up. Again, we can bring some trees in. Some mud and grass are the sort of the themes and the vibes that we want to bring home today. Let's place in some of our gums again as well. We can turn on prop and tree anarchy so we can bring in some different areas. It could even be a possibility is the fact that we want to fuse the sawmill together. If we want to have two of them in, we could possibly have that one on the corner there. It will still maintain its connection. And then if we were to give it a little copy and paste, we'd move it. And then spin this around so the buildings are, you know, somewhat sensibly aligned. Can we just create almost a little sort of fused sawmill yard where it's slightly bigger? It's going to have double the processing capacity, of course, because there's two of them here now. But, I don't think I mind it. It definitely works, doesn't it? One of the sawmills fused together like that. And it's going to double the processing power for the area too, which is nice. Yes, you will get resources delivered, don't worry about that, it will happen. And then again, I think just a little bit of service painter, get some overgrowth through here as well. Let's add some of these larger sort of trees that you imagine were here, you know, before the plantation was properly established, and sort of very much nature is still a part of this industry area, if you like. Yeah, get some stuff in there. And then let's get some overgrowth down in there as well. So they're really kind of fun to piece together, these rural industry builds. Now there's this kind of same thought process also works really nicely with oil. You can create some really sort of distinct looking oil fields by sort of doing it like this. Right, so we just need to set some height markers here with the roads because we're getting some clipping. But I think that does a job, doesn't it? You know, a little bit of overgrowth next to all this wood paneling. You can see those greenhouses in the background there as well. Little pathway that cuts through. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, what's his name? Leatherface is here as well with his chainsaw. And it's just great. Okay? So it's piecing together already. So I don't really want this sort of area of the facility to get much bigger now. I'm quite happy for it to remain that small. So let's develop something a bit chunkier for the industry area. So I think we're going to move the forestry main building so it's pretty much next to the train tracks here. Again, it's going to be a nice sort of positioning and orientation. Then what I'd like to do is to bring in a little bit of road. Any road will do, this will be fine. So let's grab a little bit of industry road. So we're going to do a little holding frame here. And then we'll place in our cargo train terminal. So I want to have this here. We're going to have the cargo terminal at the head of the road here. And then I'm going to delete the roads off of the side of it. So what this will do is it'll stop cargo traffic from turning around on the roads and backing onto itself. And when you configure a cargo station like this, it essentially, they just drive straight in and then straight back out again. Hopefully as we get this hooked in, you will see it in practice. It's a nice little way of using them, kind of helps with the traffic flow a little bit too. So let's just clear out a little bit of forestry line here that comes out the tunnel. And then we will separate our line out there. So let's come on with a little line here. Then try to get some sort of sensible curvature installed. Try not to upset the train please here today. Right, so that gives this town a cargo connection. I'm going to be pretty happy with that. I can now see perhaps where I might want a little bit of upgraded road through this space here. So we'll prepare for that. And there's another asset I want to use, which is the forestry industry maintenance building. So I kind of want to place this down. And we can see that it wants to be snapped onto the road facing this way. I'm thinking I almost want to try and use this as kind of a sort of like a train admin yard, I guess. Almost like a train shed. That's not too bold a phrase, I think. I'm not sure. We'll find out together. We're going to see how this works. So yeah, I really want to set everything down to the same height as like here. We'll lose its connection that far away from the road. I just want to see what it looks like first of all, okay? I want the train line to kind of come in here as though it is, you know, like a shed for the train line. A little bit of admin, like there is a train store yard here. Perhaps larger cargo loads can be unloaded within the warehouse itself. Could we also achieve this vibe at the back as well? Yes, we could. That's interesting now, isn't it? So I just want to try it out here to see what happens together. Of course, that's got the little sort of concrete lip on it, so that isn't going to work for sort of bring it down. We could, however, sink the building down a little bit to expose those rail lines into the concrete. That makes it seem a little bit more plausible, I think, doesn't it? And then if we were to align the fencing with the edge of the rail, does that still work? It kind of does. I don't think I'm totally averse to that idea coming to fruition. It probably is a little bit tidying up, a little bit of service paint, some detail in here will go a long way. But I hope you can see my thought process there, right? I hope it makes sense. It's a slightly more interesting way of using the maintenance building, I think. And it's going to really bulk onto the side of that cargo center as well. There you go. You can see the trucks using this now. Just drive straight in and out. So I think I'm happy with it, but this road does need upgrading. Now let's go for that little 1-unit industrial road. And then we want to give this building here its connection. Let's go ahead and grab the nodes here. Pretty much all the ones we want, and then set them to the same height as that. Cool, let's also set this to the same height as that as well. Interesting that we can actually sink that down entirely, can't we? Let's also bring the cargo rail down too. Yeah, that's more what I'm after. Cool, and then it looks like there is a little bit of terrain sort of bonk happening here now. Let's just smoothen that out a little bit. Everyone should be happy. And then this area out the front of the cargo yard now is perfect for a little bit of prop detailing to get some containers through here. Either workshop containers that you're a fan of, or vanilla ones will do a job here too. So let's paint out service paint edge. We'll have it at a slight angle, I think. I'm not totally against that idea. And then we'll use kind of the second half of the yard for either more overgrowth or more sort of storage. We will go ahead and grab some chain link fencing from After Dark, and then with a little bit of linear fence fill using the old faithful prop line tool. We can perhaps just cordon off this area of the yard here. So if we go from like there up towards the concrete, and then we'll bring that down against the concrete edge. And then just let this run flush with the road now. And then of course at a later date, during our detailing time lapse today, we can get involved with a little bit of prop detailing here, which is always fun, isn't it? Get that gate into, then complete that fence yard. Try not to quit the parking space. And hopefully now we get the impression of how that will look. Okay, just a slightly more expanded sort of cargo and forestry processing area, trying to do something a little bit different with the maintenance building. I don't know, let me know. I imagine this one's going to be quite divisive in the comments. Let me know what you think of it. I imagine all this would achieve would be electrifying the entire building by having the cables going through it. But either way, we've got a cute little sort of chunkier processing area and delivery area now. I'm curious to see just how many people we get coming through. I've noticed there is a train line there. So a very small amount of imports, just the vans. So things are developing now. So I'd like to do a touch more processing capacity for the rural forestry area. Now I think we're going to use the actual tree sort of plantations for this. So I've got a sort of vision in mind, is because these assets, the sort of tree fields themselves and the sapling fields too, do conform to the terrain, we can do some pretty cool things with them. So let's come into them, let's go ahead, and I think the large one is a little bit too large, so I think I'm just going to stick with the medium tree plantation. Cool. So unfortunately we can't use Bob to change the tree on them because we don't exchange the Bob files in 5B. It's just too much hassle, so we're going to have to deal with one of the vanilla ones, but we'll see what's available to us. Okay, so that's what I want. It's not a great selection, is it? It's not a great selection of vanilla trees. I think this one is probably the best shout, isn't it? Which one's that? That one's the beech. Okay, so we'll go for beech trees then. Okay. Cool. And then that just gives us some sort of trees that looks like they've been very obviously planted in rows, kind of sat on the mountainside there, okay? It's very subtle, but it's going to give us some extra processing power, and it's going to sit as part of the overall design in the forestry here too, which hopefully we can get an impression of now. Okay, got some fences here, and you can just see a couple of little warehouses behind the tree line there across the rail yard. I hope we're kind of hammering home the point of rural forestry here today. It's a very fun theme to play with. So of course this wants to be detailed, we can do some nice extended tree lines out here as well. We can do rows of the actual trees themselves to extend them out. But it is going to be producing forestry stuff for us. We do want to off any road networks. I don't think we'll hook it in down here. Possibly does want a little connection up here. Actually, this one might be quite appropriate for it if we come up through this space here. Just an extra connection for them. Should help improve the traffic flow, which isn't too bad around here now, actually. Considering we've got a fair amount of industry traffic and a rail crossing here, and a cargo station, it's coping pretty well. It's not doing too bad. I think I'm also going to throw in the engineered wood plant, which will produce plain timber for us. Both plain timbers here. Right? I don't think do I want the biomass plant? Maybe a little big. I guess it is sort of a similar kind of vibe to all this stuff here, isn't it? So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Okay, as I mentioned, traffic, of course, traffic appears. Wonderful. Great. So hopefully it's not too bad, is it? It's not backlogging at least. Let's make sure it is alright. It seems to be. It's just when there's a big influx it gets a bit busy. All these people exporting though, that's very nice that they're exporting straight away. But okay, yeah, the traffic is okay. Okay then, with that in mind, if we're going to introduce the biomass pellet plant into the build, let's bring this road back a little bit. Let's move our forestry main building just across to the other side of the road. It will maintain its connection. Let's just delete that bit of forestry road for right now. That's why we sort this out. Yeah, so we can have that there. That's not going to be too bad. This wants to be maybe slightly more positioned so it's not clipping anywhere, but that looks about alright to me. And then we can surface paint that as well, of course. Keep this sort of muddy texture coming along the whole rail line. It'll definitely be a vibe once it's all detailed and stuff. Probably up here as well, I imagine. Cool. And then that gives us room to add on the biomass plant here, doesn't it? Which we can use that as an extension. Actually wondering now, do we just want to knock that back a little bit? I think we probably want to get some car parking in here as well. Okay, so factoring in the positioning of the biomass plant, I think we're going to bring up a road here. I really want to get the biomass plant placed first. What, we're a tile away there? Okay, so let's come ever so slightly shorter, and then we can box that in there. And then I think I do just want to flip it around. Let's just use move it to do this. Old vanilla habits die hard, everyone. And then we can have that in there as part of the wider processing facility. And orientation makes such a big difference to a build, doesn't it? Just look how much of a sort of cool industrial yard we've configured here with literally 2 assets. You know, it makes a huge difference. Okay, but it's not too bad. I'm pretty happy with that. Again, we can expand the container detail in here. And then we might as well have a warehouse over here as well. So we'll be producing paper, and then we're producing a lot of plain timber. Okay, so let's store the plain timber then. I would like a large warehouse is way too big. Yep, it's not the vibe. And I think I can see some possible orientation ideas again here, so let's bring this road out. We'll have it fill this general space, and then that's going to round out the area between the rail lines quite nicely. And then we'll have a small one in. And then we'll also go for a small warehouse there as well. So we'll store plain timber, which we're making the most of, in the medium warehouse, and then we'll put paper into the small one. And then both can be stored and exported and imported as they sort of deem necessary. And then we can do some detailing up here as well with some overgrowth and help blend in back into that kind of mountain forest that sits around the edge of it. And the last sort of little thing I'd like to do here before we kind of detail up the build is to, again, it's kind of a weird vision that I just have in my mind. I've come into this build kind of knowing what I want it to look like, and it's been immensely satisfying. So we're going to have another little kind of angled hill road here. Again, we'll sort out gradients in a second. But I just want that there. And then again, I've got the aesthetic of one of these here, one of the sawdust storage assets. Maybe... which ones do we want? See, I'd like them to face out the other way. But yeah, just one of these perched on the hill is for some reason very much ingrained into my brain. So let's go ahead and place it in. Of course, need to terraform the mountain ridge so we don't get that tear away. But that's just it. Just a little bit of raw material storage for the sawmills and the engineered wood plants here. So we can just start storing this up and they can use it all up. There we go, he's already coming in to drop some stuff off. Fantastic. Wonderful. Everyone's playing fair. These are all producing a decent amount, right? Yep, got plenty of trees under these. Everyone's incredibly happy. Wonderful. Otherwise, this feels like a good point to detail it. Pretty simple build, but really effective. Especially once it sits all detailed as part of the town. Because originally we did design this town to become a forestry town. Which it now is, finally, which is very nice. Yeah, really happy with it, and I hope you see just sort of little changes in orientation. Some larger centres and some more rural, sparser designs. So let's tie it all together and see what difference it makes. A really fun, happy build, this one. Yeah, lots of details to do anyway. Let's get on with it, and then we'll be right back. have a detailing review, we need to go ahead and pay Yumble a visit, of course. So during his rotation a few weeks ago now, of course, because it's so long between each of the main builders, he added in a little bit of sewage for us, which is fine. That's absolutely okay. You know, there's no boundaries to crossing the river, but I feel like we should at least, return the favour, so to speak. So we'll head over to Yumble's side here. So he's got his little kind of like main sort of centre strip going on here with his town. And then he's got some waterfront action happening here with his residential stuff. And he's kind of got this space here. So I think we're going to leave him a rock garden, I think. So I'll just go ahead and speed this up. There we go. So we just left a little Yumble inspired rock garden in his part of the town. Hopefully it resembles it. I hope it does. Maybe not the finest kind of bush art you've ever seen, but there we go. We've at least left our mark. On Yumble's territory, however, let's have a detailing review, shall we, for our area. So we arrive at the foot of the town where we come into the area. We've got some forestry fencing and a little repeated tree pattern, just to help introduce the area. And there's a ton of trees here, you know, there's more trees than, you know, Paul McCartney's garden, but it works really nicely at helping to blend the kind of mountain forestry build at the foot of all these really heavily forested hills. I think it kind of pays off here, doesn't it? So we'll explore together. So we come into the biomass plant on the right here, and then a little detailed kind of prop sort of industry yard where they're storing planks, containers, raw materials, etc. nearby to the cargo station. And I love the way that this whole complex just flows, all the kind of main processing center here, and then there's little kind of orbital sites all over the area. It's turned out really nicely. And then some more overgrown belt here between all the industrial yards as it comes in to this bit of fusion here where we've done some clever service painted, so we've got the concrete around where this kind of mock train shed is, if you like. It's a shame that that thing's in the way, but maybe they'll move it at a later date. And then, yeah, it comes out into the engineered wood plant, which then spills into some more node controller work, which has just had all the sort of dead connections tied into it now. So everyone's happy and flowing around. Also redoing the train line and added in lots of overgrowth on the other side of it against that industrial area over there. So that's turned out quite nicely. Actually, it doesn't look too bad through the trees there. Pretty happy with that. And then, of course, we get the trains passing here as well, which looks really sweet. Hopefully there'll be one as we talk about them. There we go. That's perfect timing. Thank you very much, train. So there we go. Yeah, that's a really nice aesthetic now. And then just a little note as well here for all these little kind of orbital mini processing sites scattered across the facility is the angles of them. Just that little shift in angle makes a world of difference, doesn't it? Just that really kind of small little change in the orientation. But either way, we have our two sawmills fused here now, which are all happily fused together and working. Look pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with them. I'm happy that they're just kind of like sat here and just chilling out. Looks really good. Nice and busy as well, of course, with people working inside them. And then we come up onto the hillside where we're greeted with that storage. And this looks really cool at night as well, just because there's those two little lights there in the trees where they're storing the raw materials. And then some more perfectly chosen forestry industry from the zoning, of course. Over the side of the train station, we've drawn in some more cargo containers, and now all of our store yards are filled up, which essentially gives us prop detailing already, which is super helpful. So now we have these filled warehouses. Again, you know, we can position them nicely so they complement one another as well. We kind of get this mass prop storage aesthetic when we do this. And then it just kind of finagles around into a bit of overgrown forest, which then bleeds back up into the kind of big mountain rainforest up here that heads off and over in that direction. But it's been a pretty cool build, and it really kind of hits the vibe of rural forestry, I think, with some nice functionality in here as well. But Pampatar now has another little cute forestry area, which will make a small profit, and of course it goes up and down as it always does. But it's not too bad, and it's pretty cute, and I think it, really fits the theme, doesn't it? I think we've not done too bad a job here today with a cute little rural forestry build, but I will leave it there, guys. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, a like, comment or a share below. It really does help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, then please feel free to leave me a dislike as well. I believe a 4th rotation of the 3rd season has not been confirmed yet, and it isn't looking like it's going to happen, I don't think. So I believe this will be my last contribution to Pampatar. And I'll also take this point as well to say that I won't be coming back for Season 4 of 5B1C. I've been doing it for 2 years now, so I will hop out and let someone else take one of the main builder slots. So a huge thank you for everyone that managed to get me into this series by shouting out my name. And of course a big welcome to everyone that has found me because of 5B. It's been a really fun project to work on with all the other builders and all the other guest builders that have come and gone over the 2 years as well. So thank you for all support. Please enjoy some cute cinematics of my little rural town in 5B for the final time. Otherwise, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.